If you have hit 50 or you're in your mid 50s and suddenly feel like the ground beneath you is shifting, if you wake up some days and think to yourself, I don't even know who I am anymore. First thing I want you to know is you are not broken. You are not even in a midlife crisis. You are in a midlife awakening. And this is the time that is super powerful for you in your life. So really honor it. I know society tells us that when we're in our 50s, we should have it all figured out. The career is set. We've had a successful career. Maybe we're a stay-at-home mom and the children are either launching or already have. And the house feels quiet. But within you, it doesn't. It feels really loud. We feel this hollow panic. We feel a void. The identity or the person we were before is suddenly changing and really fast. And we don't know the roadmap. We don't know where we're headed. It feels unknown and it feels uncertain. So today, I want to talk to you about this feeling of being lost, uncertainty, a lack of a roadmap. Because I truly believe that if you allow what is happening to happen without hiding from it, without brushing it off, like really allow it in, this is one of the most powerful times in your life. My name is Darcy. I'm the host of this channel, and I am the founder of Salt and Smoke Retreats, which I design specifically for women in their 50s, 60s, and beyond, when they are beginning to feel this moment of waking up to something deeper, a deeper calling, whatever that is. We're going to talk about that right now. So I want to share a metaphor with you that I think is so interesting. And, I knew I wanted to share a metaphor when I was putting this together, but this one came to me, and this is actually something new for me as well. I was unfamiliar with this, but it was the perfect metaphor. Everybody knows what a lobster is, right? Yeah. Okay. But did you know that the soft, sensitive lobster that they are and the rigid shell that they have, at some level, we expect that they can handle just about anything, right? They are fearful, they'll climb under a rock. Otherwise, their hard shell protects them. But as they grow, eventually the shell gets too small. It starts to pinch, and the lobster feels confined, pressured, and a little uncomfortable. So the intelligence of the lobster says, well, we don't have lobster doctors down here, but if we did, they might give us something to help us manage the stress. But they don't. So lobsters realize that they are unable to numb the pain, and they accept it. It listens to the discomfort and realizes that I cannot stay the lobster I was before. I am becoming somebody new. So your 50s, maybe your mid 50s, maybe even closer to 60 are exactly this moment. The identity you built when you were in your 30s, 40s, maybe early 50s. So I say that because I don't think that we live in this box. I think we experience this at different times in our life. Like I have clients who are in their late 40s. I have clients who are in their late 50s experiencing this. We don't all manage it or see it the same way at the same time. It's a very unique time in our life. So this identity you built as a super mom or a corporate climber, maybe you've been a caretaker for most of your life. It just doesn't fit anymore. It's too tight. You're feeling lost, not because you are failing, but because you are actually expanding. So what do you say? What if you climb under the rock like a lobster does and shed its shell, its old identity, knowing that you're going to be a little vulnerable for a while? But expansion, growth, personal development, transformation, none of those things can happen in our life if we're unwilling to allow the discomfort instead of fight it or panic. This is such a powerful time. So I want to share a little bit of my own story in the messy middle. So I was in my mid-40s when I started to experience severe migraines. The perimenopausal time in my life. I was still menstruating. My son had left home. I only have one. And my husband worked a lot. So I got a dog. And that did help a little bit. But of course, that didn't take care of all of the physical stuff that was going on in my body. So I tried everything. And it really came down to living with these migraines and actually using them as an opportunity to rest, because I wasn't very good at that time in my life. It was an opportunity for me to really be quiet, of course, because the one thing or the few things that you can do when you have a migraine is sleep. You're in a dark room. You need something over your eyes, and you need absolute quietness. And let me tell you, you don't sit and think that whole time, or excuse me, you don't sit and lay there and sleep that whole time. You wake up and you think about life. And I really got to this point where I don't want to say enjoyed, but I welcomed these migraines in a completely different way than I had, like in that 45 to 50-year-old range. I allowed them. And I let them be an opportunity for me. It was very vulnerable. And it shook up my life because I was down for at least 24 hours, sometimes 48. But this is where the magic began to happen in my life. So I want to just step back a little bit and let's just zoom out of our lives for just a moment. The first half of our life, our 20s, 30s, 40s, we are like architects. We're building. We build our careers. We build our families. We build reputations. And we are obsessed with structure and doing. But around 50 years old, something changes. And the architect retires. And the alchemist in us starts to wake up. And here's where I see one of two things happen. The crisis that it is often called is a crisis because we resist and we fight and we're not open to this growth edge that we are being asked to step into. So we do things like we buy things that make us look younger. We do a lot of things to our bodies so we can feel as though we're younger than we are. Now, I have no judgment of the aging body, especially like I used to. I had a career 30 years in the fitness industry, and it was one of the scariest times of my life to realize that my body is changing and some of it I don't have control over anymore. The acceptance of that was so extremely freeing. Now, that doesn't mean I don't take care of myself. I really watch what I eat most of the time. I work out. I do things like Pilates and yoga, but I don't do what I used to do. I've changed all of that. And it's been a little bit of a process. But the alchemist, the one who starts to wake up, is more interested in building, isn't interested in building structures. The alchemist is more interested in meaning, a meaningful life. Doesn't mean you're losing your ambition or your ambition is changing, but your frequency is. We're moving from outer success to inner significance. And this is the best part. So the things that used to make us happy, promotions, a busy, overwhelming schedule, although I would argue that I don't know that that makes people really happy because it numbs them from a lot of things. The approval of others. Of course, this is an ongoing journey, and sometimes I still feel this come up, but it is definitely changing for sure. Much more conscious of it. And there is a little feeling of loneliness and emptiness that comes along with it. Because even though we know other women are aging and changing, maybe even experiencing the same thing, there's sometimes a part of us that wants to hide from that. There is this process, this time period in which we come into acceptance of ourselves aging. And at first, for some, that can feel, again, very vulnerable. And a lot of people want to resist it at first. I did too, until I didn't. Our soul is hungry for something real. And might I add, in this day and time, in our country, in the world, I think this hunger is growing. Consciously or unconsciously, I think it is growing. I remember feeling like I was in a fog. The instinct is to run, resist, pretend it wasn't happening. I would fill my calendar. I would work out harder. I would do things that would allow me at some level to stay in my younger years. The thing is, I couldn't fix it. I had to accept it. And so do you. This growing pain feels like you are growing into a completely new being. And if you numb it, and if you stop this growth, I am going to promise you that it is going to resurface in your life later on and ask you again. There will be an ongoing resistance, numbness, unsettledness, and maybe even a deep-seated unhappiness. If this new self, this new identity, isn't allowed in to open you, expose you, so try this instead. Like, even after you watch this video, just for today, try one thing and give yourself permission to not know. Because really, honestly, if we just sit and really contemplate this point in time we are in any point in our life, we only really have today. Like, the future does not exist, and neither really does the past. So if you really sit silently and ask yourself today, or accept that you are in this space between stories, if you want to call it that, And treat yourself with gentleness, like you would treat this vulnerable lobster under the rock. I promise you this identity shift of who you were to who you are becoming isn't the end of your relevance. It is the beginning of the truest chapter in your life. I tell you, I don't think the world needs any more women pretending to have it all together. That is so exhausting. The world needs women who are brave enough to become who they really are and be in full coherence of that. So I want to hear from you down in the comments. If you could describe in one word this in-between feeling that you are experiencing right now, what would it be? One word, that's it. I already shared mine, and that was I felt like I was in a fog for a while. I could feel that part of my life leaving, and I just had no idea what was coming. And of course, I did resist this aging, the changes in my body, and I decided to accept it. I decided to fully step into it. So I hope to hear from you. And if you are looking for a community, if this video resonated with you, you might consider joining my community of women. It is called Luminaire. There are really kind of two parts to it. One is reading my paid version on Substack. Once you join that, you have automatic access to our monthly gatherings. Or you can just join the monthly gatherings. I will put a link for that below. I'm also going to put a link about my retreats. I have several of them coming up this year, and they're such a beautiful time for women in this stage in their life to feel supported and to really allow themselves in a very non-judgmental space, because we're all in the same boat, to really allow themselves to open up. Even just lightly touch this new identity. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Give me a comment below. Of course, subscribe and hit the bell. And we'll see you next week. Bye for now. Mwah.